Are you thinking about starting a podcast in the new year? Before you rush into recording, I recommend you listen to this episode. I'm going to talk about 3 steps that could make the difference between a show that fades out after 5 episodes and one that builds your business all year long. Welcome to Podcast Strategy That Brings in Clients. I'm your host, Laura McRae, podcast producer and content strategist. If you want your podcast to bring in leads, build trust and support your business, you're in the right place. Because smart content starts with your podcast, but it doesn't stop there. Welcome back to the show. I'm Laura, your podcast consultant and the founder of Podcast Support Services, where we help business owners launch, manage and grow their podcast in a way that's strategic, sustainable and stress-free. Today we're talking about something I'm really passionate about: launching your podcast with intention. Because the new year is the perfect time to set things up properly. Not just tick it off your list, but create a podcast that supports your goals for 2026 and beyond. I know it's tempting when you've got episode ideas spilling out of your head and you just want to get started with your podcast. You've maybe already brought your mic and you're ready to go. But what most new podcasters miss is that your podcast isn't just another project. It's a real strategic marketing tool. One that can help you attract new leads, build trust, and grow your visibility in a really genuine way. When you slow down and plan your podcast first, you're setting your podcast up to work with your business. That way, it's not just another thing you have to do. It becomes something that really drives results. Most people, unfortunately, start recording their podcast before they've really thought about who their podcast is for. They haven't mapped out their services for the year. They're not clear on who they're speaking to, and they haven't linked their episodes to the offers that they want to grow. So they start recording, and then they get all confused and start second-guessing their content. And your confidence, unfortunately, then takes a hit because you're not sure if it's actually doing anything for your business. If this sounds familiar, don't worry, you're not the only one. This happens so often, and this is why so many podcasts drop off after a handful of episodes. They run out of ideas and don't think it's worth it anymore because they haven't really planned their podcast. Now imagine this instead. You launch your podcast and you know exactly who it's for. And you're clear on what you want to be known for. And every episode naturally supports your services without sounding salesy or pushy. Let's say you're a mindset coach and one of your core offers is a 3-month one-on-one program. Your podcast could include episodes about mindset blocks your clients typically face before they work with you. You could include stories from your own growth journey, behind the scenes of what happens inside your program, and tips for spotting when it's time for support. And then suddenly your podcast becomes a warm-up for your offer. That kind of alignment makes content easier to create and far more effective. You're not guessing, you're guiding your audience. That kind of alignment makes content easier to create and far more effective. You're not guessing. Instead, you're guiding your audience, and that's what builds trust. I know I've spoken about this before, but one of the biggest mistakes people make when launching their podcast is being too broad. If you try to talk to everyone, you end up resonating with no one. Here are some questions to help you get clear on who your podcast is really for. Who do you love working with? What stage of the business are they in? What are they Googling late at night? And what's the transformation you help them create? Maybe your dream listener is a service-based business owner who's already making steady income but wants more visibility. Maybe they feel stuck on social media and want to build deeper connection with their audience. That's who you're talking to. Every episode should make that person feel seen. At this time of year, you might be thinking about starting a podcast because you feel like you should, because everyone's starting a podcast. But please don't think of it like that. Think of it as a way to build trust and connection. Something that supports the bigger picture of your business. When your podcast is built around the services you want to grow, everything gets easier. Your content becomes clearer, you stop scrambling for ideas, and you feel confident that your episodes are leading somewhere. And the most important thing is, you're not just creating content, you're creating opportunities. That could be PR opportunities, speaking gigs, new clients, and meeting new people and making new relationships. So if you're thinking of launching in 2026, here are 3 things I'd love you to do first. First thing you need to do is get clear on your services. Ask yourself, what do I want to be known for? What am I actively trying to grow in my business this year? So say, for example, if you're promoting a group program that starts in April, your February episode should start creating awareness around the topic. The next thing you need to do is define your ideal listener. Visualize one person. This should be your dream client. What are they struggling with? What do they need to hear? Build your episodes around them and not what's trending. It's important to give your listener what they really need. And lastly, I recommend getting ideas for maybe at least 10 episodes before you start recording your podcast. Speak to your dream client and align with your services. If you're not sure where to start, think about frequently asked questions. What do your people normally ask you? You could also do an episode on a client case study or behind the scenes or key lessons taken from your own journey. But just please remember, don't be pressured to start a podcast. Do one with purpose and plan it well ahead. Don't just launch your podcast without really planning it beforehand, because you'll regret it when you get to episode 4 or 5 and you get stuck. If this episode gave you lots of ideas and you're ready to start planning your podcast, then download my free podcast launch roadmap. There's a link to it in the show notes. And if you're looking for more hands-on support, let's chat. My podcast launch and management packages are tailor-designed for you to suit your business, your timelines and your needs. Again, I'll put a link to make the call in the show notes. When your episodes align with your goals and your offers, your podcast becomes more than content. It becomes a valuable part of your marketing that builds trust, attracts the right people, and supports your business goals. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next week. This episode is brought to you by Podcast Support Services, podcast strategy that attracts leads, clients, and credibility. Are you looking for a podcast producer? We may have availability. Head to podcastsupportservices.com.au.